Hello snowboarders of the internet. I'm your host Avran LeFeber, and in this breakdown video we'll be going over the Vans Infuse Boot, one of their more higher end boots with a lot more technology in it and a lot of different customization options in there for you as well. This video is made possible by Tactics Board Shop up in the Pacific Northwest, so if you're looking for a good core shop that will support your snowboarding needs, why don't you go down to Tactics, or you can shop online at their website, tactics.com. That's right, they sent us these boots so we could break them down, so we could tell you people who they might work for or what you might find inside them. Because I need to reiterate this point so many more times, the best boot is the one that fits your foot and fits your needs. Make sure you get sized properly and you understand the flex and what the fit is of the boot. And if you're buying online, which I strongly do not recommend, go with a shop that has a good return policy. That's just good life advice in general, but you really want to make sure your boots are dialed in. This is a burly built boot. You've got a TPU toe cap right over the front. This is just going to be a little more firm. It's not going to flex. It's not going to break in as easily as, say, nubuck, leather, or any other synthetic material. It's also going to protect you when you're hiking and kicking your toe in, when you're climbing and hiking and stuff. Or if you're on the chairlift whacking your board with the edge, it's not going to dig in, it's not going to cut. It's also got this cover slip over the lace, so this will protect your laces. You do have some stitching over here that you might need to worry about down the road, but I really wouldn't worry about that. And then you got more TPU in the back spine. This is going to give it some rebound when you drive into it, so you're not really going to crease it or fold it as much, which is kind of nice. It doesn't have the most aggressive back spine, but it doesn't need that for how you can adjust the flex on this boot. This doesn't have the most aggressive articulation in the cuff. You'll notice that when you flex into it, that it tends to bulge out at the sides. It's not gonna be as free flexing in there. You can see when you're flexing into this that it is bowing out just a little bit. So you need to be aware of that. One of the ways to compensate for that is the side boa, as this actually has a small piece of fabric that's a guide right here. And so what this is doing is this just helps lock you in over your instep. So you do have that. The other cool thing that's going on with that, because that helps with the customization, is you have two cleats for your laces, and then you got this power strap. Now let's say you don't want the power strap, you can take this off, and that's gonna give you more flex at the top, or if you have a really big calf, you're gonna be able to remove this, and that's gonna just fit better on there for you. So you do have some customization with this boot. So going along with the customization of the flex of this boot, you actually have these tongue stiffeners right here. You can pull those out and you're gonna get more forward flexion into the tongue of the boot, or you can leave them in there. It's just like with that power strap going around the outside of the tongue. You can kind of decide where you want it, how you want it to work. So it's a nice way to just play with the flex of this boot. So just be aware that right now this is at its stiffest point. You can actually soften this up a little bit more if you need to. I know, not the most scientific method, but I just want you to be aware of that. With the lacing options on the inverse, you have traditional lace, a power strap, and a boa knob. So on the outer shell, you can tighten this down how you want to a point with that lace. Then you've got that power strap across the top that you can cinch down, or you can remove it. That will be up to you to do it. So with the power strap, you can actually take this thing off by sliding it through the loop. You just got to be aware that it is sewn on this side, so you would end up having to cut it if you want that fully removed. Otherwise, I would think that maybe the better option would be to feed it back through and just get it out of the way of what you're doing with it in case you don't want to use it. Then you have this boa knob on the side, and down over the instep is where that sits. So as you crank that, that can change how your heel is locked in from the shell. Not from the liner, but from the actual shell. So that's just another point of customization in there, and it works. Good for certain types of people. Inside the shell, you have a standard drawstring tightener in there. It's sewn into the shell. It's gonna help just tighten that liner down, get you that heel hold. Hey, come here. Have you given this video a thumbs up? You know you want to. And while you're down there, why don't you subscribe and click the bell so you get those notifications. That way you're not missing any of the programming we've got coming out for you. On the sole of this boot, you have the V3 Super Waffle Enduro with the Cold Track rubber compound in it. This is a harder sole. It's got more defined grip to it. You're gonna notice that this is really kind of chunky. This is the most aggressive tread that Vans has, and you're gonna notice that this is really beefy. This is gonna just help on icier conditions. It's gonna be able to grip more. It also dampens more, so like when you push into it, it doesn't have as much give as the V2 or the V1 waffle do. So you're gonna get a little less board feel, which also means those micro vibrations aren't really gonna resonate back up underfoot. It also sits a little bit higher, so you're not gonna have as low of a profile boot with it. You are gonna sit a little bit higher. And that's one thing I've noticed with Vans. Their boots tend to be a little bit more chonky, so certain bindings, you gotta kind of size them appropriately. In the inverse, you do get the V3 Ultra Cush liner, and this has North Face's flash dry technology in it. So this is gonna help wick moisture away from you. It's a little bit more malleable up at the top of this liner, and then the foam starts to get a little bit harder. One thing that I would like everyone to know, this is the best liner that Vans makes. It's still gonna have a decent amount of pack out to it, much like their other liners. So you really want a nice snug fit with it. You got this neoprene around the toe and the top. This is gonna be really expandable. So when you heat mold these, if you do, or if they pack out, you're gonna notice that these have a lot of give to them. Now on the back of this liner, you do get the X cage. So this is an external C-bar or butterfly wrap or J-bars, whatever you wanna call it. I mean, realistically, they're C-shaped. This is gonna help with heel hold. And then when you open up the liner, which you do have Velcro on the tongue, what you're gonna notice is where the blue is, that's your internal J-bar, and these are aggressive. These are very assertive. These are going to really grip. This is gonna fit in there. It's not super narrow. It's more of a U shape than a V shape back there. But these are very aggressive. Heat molding may pack them out a little bit, but I've had friends that are like, yeah, I had to cut the liner, go in and pull foam out to make them fit the way I want. So that's something to be aware of. The stock insole is Vans V3 Cush Pop. This is possibly one of the best stock insoles I've ever seen in a boot. You got posting in there, so it actually gives it shape. The arch doesn't fully collapse when I'm putting weight on it. You've got 3 different variations of foam in there just to help dampen vibrations. This is not an afterthought. Like, they actually put some thought into this, which was nice. This is better than what you can get with that. One thing you will notice is these tend to be a little bit thicker. So if you got instep pressure or something like that, you may need to go to an aftermarket one that sits a little bit lower inside there. Measuring the shell of the boot from the back to the top, it's right at 10 when we push the tongue in there. With the tongue, this is about 9 3/4, and on the side, it's just a little bit over 10 where it kind of bumps up. So not the highest cuff out there, but it's pretty much on par with everything else. So this is a 27 Mondo point, and if we measure it at the 4-foot, and we start at the 1-inch mark, and we go, it comes out to about 5 inches, so that's about 4 across. These will run a little bit wider because this neoprene right here and the foam in here is really expandable. Sizing this cuff, if we put it in there, it comes in at 10 3/4 at the back. On the tongue, it's 10 inches. It's got that slope down, so it's gonna go from that down on the side. Remember that the best boot is the one that fits your foot and fits your needs. You wanna get sized properly, which means big toe touching the end of the liner when you're standing up when the boots are tied. When you flex your knee over the toe at the ankle, it should pull off just a little bit, or it should reduce some of the pressure. You don't want any side-to-side play in there, so get sized properly. And if you're buying online, make sure you buy from a shop that's got a good return policy, like tactics.com. So who do I recommend this boot for? It's going to be a little bit wider in the forefoot and a little bit wider in the heel. It still has decent heel hold, but if you're one of those people that gets a lot of ankle pressure, this might not be the boot for you because of how tight that ankle is. On top of that, I think with the flex offerings in this is for someone that maybe they need a really stiff, aggressive boot for charging, but then in the spring they want it a little bit softer. They can pull the tongue stiffeners out and go ride the park with it. They like traditional lace. They're not boa adverse, so they're like, okay, it's fine that I got this little boa section in there. And it's someone that understands this liner will pack out a ton as well. That's probably the biggest downside actually with Vans is their liners. I think that they could do better with their foam and make a stronger liner that doesn't pack out as much. And if they did that, they might be able to actually minimize their shell lengths because these things are super chonky. Like what we're doing over here? Want to support us further? Swing on over to Angry Snowboarder VIP and become a member. Sure, I could tell you more here, but I got a video over there that explains it so much better. All right, so hopefully we've gone through all the features on the Infuse for you and you got a better understanding of what this boot offers. Remember, the best boot is the one that fits your foot and fits your needs. So hopefully this fits your foot and your needs. But if it doesn't, why don't you go check out one of our other boot breakdown videos?